Alright, so next up on my weapon series is going to be Jaime's weapon. Now, Jaime is of course one of the most sought after weapons out there, due to him acting as the primary enabler of the weakness synergy. So him, Sonara, and Layla's weapons all go sort of hand in hand, mostly because they're all sourced from the exact same place. So you have to choose the three of them as a bundle to be your board in the archery contest, which is up once a month, and it will be exceedingly expensive to actually unlock Jaime's weapon. You'll only be able to afford him if you're on the higher end of being a mid spender or a very, very high spender. So to do a full board clear in the archery contest will be 4,000 black diamonds. A bit less than that if you get the free arrows from the recharge event, but you're still having to invest to actually recharge to get them. So if you do a full board clear, you'll get 30 fragments from the 10 limit of free fragments for his weapon. There will be the big chest, which will be the big prize on the board, which will give you a full weapon of either Jaime, Sonara, or Layla. So let's say that's on average 33 Jaime fragments each time you get it, because it's a 33.3% chance of getting a full weapon for it. You can get less if you're unlucky, more if you're lucky, of course. And there will also be the random chest for Jaime, which can give either fragments or the full weapon, and you can get 2 fragments from that. You can get 4 fragments, 8 fragments, 12 fragments, 18 fragments, his full weapon. There's a huge variety in what you can get there. On average, in terms of an average value, I'd say it's somewhere between like 10 and 15 fragments. So if we just say 12 for the sake of it, of course, the fragments, you'll tend to get lower than that, but if you hit the full weapon, it'll bump the average up. So if we say one of them is 12 fragments, that on top of the 30 and the 33, it's about 0.75 Jaime weapons per 4,000 black diamonds. You can guarantee getting it if you go above and beyond and put in 12,000 BD, because the 300 arrow milestone will be a selection chest of all the full weapons in archery contest, and you can just choose Jaime's weapon directly from that. But it will be very, very high budget to get this. So Jaime, he is a very simplistic commander realistically in terms of the weakness synergy. All he does is when a lineup receives healing, they'll stop normal attacking and they'll use weakness attacks instead for 5 seconds, and weakness attacks will be unable to miss, which means they bypass disarm effects from the likes of Marjorie, Cersei, Daenerys, and every time you hit with a weakness attack, it will apply a debuff on them, which increases their damage taken from consequent weakness attacks by a certain percentage. Base is 3%, and all his weapon will do is scale that percentage up more and more, due to the nature of how weakness attacks work, in that they all target the lineup with the most troops lost. You will ramp this modifier up more and more on the same lineup and snowball your damage through that. So I won't go into all the details of how weakness works. You of course need his enablers. Drake, Enzo, Lats will be the primary ones of them. As far as the weapon itself goes, it is single unit in its base attributes rather than total attack. So that means you can only roll into Spearman base attack here. So even though you can run infantry weakness, you can run cav weakness, you can run mix with all 3, with 2, you'll only be able to get spear base attack on it, and that will lend a further bias towards Spearman troops with the weakness synergy, because you can't have your cake and eat it here. You've got to pick either synergy or base attack, which can potentially be a difficult choice to make. So if I go to my private Discord here, I have all the variations of his weapon mapped out. You can see the intervals of the specific stats throughout if you want to pause and look at them. But all the levels on his weapon will do is increase this weakness damage taken multiplier every level you get on it. So I have it written out here just for simplicity's sake. At base, it'll be 3% to 3.5% to 4%, 4.5%, 5%, and then finally at 4-star, it will jump a whole 1% all the way up to 6% as a weakness multiplier. So it's a very simplistic mechanic where it's just increasing the damage multiplier. To help visualize this, I thought what would make sense would be to show how much it will affect the total weakness multiplier debuffs you apply throughout a fight, because it's very simplistic in how it functions, but there is a finite amount of weakness debuffs you can apply purely because of the time limit of the fight, of course, and through that you're limited in how much your troops can actually attack in that space. Now you have to remember that these numbers are sort of a total number throughout the fight, or more specifically when Drake, Enzo, or Lat start healing without their weapons, since they'll be the primary enablers. You will have healing sources before this with Dragon Assist, Hector, Arslan, but these three will be the main source of weakness attacks due to the fact that they hit all 5 lineups of their respective troop type. And then this number here, this is based off this Discord channel I have, which mapped out the total amount of attacks throughout a fight for a mono infantry lineup. I think this was on a rebel group. So it's starting here in this instance. This 45 number is including a +5 from the second. So this second started at 40, and then from 15 seconds all the way down to 40, it will go from 40 attacks to 140. So 100 attacks in that 25-second period, which is what I'm going to be basing these maths off. The 100 attacks I'm going to apply to the Cav and Spear lineups too. This isn't necessarily mathematically accurate in all cases, but just for simplicity, it's what I'm going to go with. So if we check back here, you can really see, even at the single weakness level, just how much of a jump this is. Of course, you can see on the weapon it's doubling the effect, but when you see the net gain in the total amount of weakness multipliers you're actually applying throughout the fight, it's very significant. But where this weapon really shines is where you apply it in double and even more so triple weakness situations. And you see the net jump with a 4-star weapon from base when you're running triple weakness is huge. It's a net increase of plus 900%, which is effectively 3 whole fights worth of single line weakness with base Jaime, which is an insane increase when you think of it as like 120 seconds sort of someone else in a fight in similar situations. Because of this, as you go up in the stars with the weapon, it will become more and more viable for you to shoehorn in double or triple weakness rather than running mono, because proportionally, as you're adding more and more weakness modifiers, commander damage will start becoming less of your damage output, and that will be one of the main benefits of remaining at single weakness, because you're not diluting your commander damage. And even though you're not a female lineup, you will still have 20 actives being cast throughout the fight with a weakness lineup, so you will have a good chunk of damage from commander damage, but you can start scaling up to insane numbers at a 3-4-star weapon. You'll have to note that these numbers are just the amount you'll apply in this 25-second period. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll ever see plus 1,800% weakness multiplier. That's not possible, because you'll of course keep having to restack it over and over again as you defeat lineups. So don't expect to see these numbers this high, but you will be chunking through lineup after lineup after lineup, of course. And honestly, there's not much more to say on it for weakness synergy players. Even at the top end of the mid-spender level, getting this will be potentially one of the best things you can get. I would say, especially if you're running double or triple weakness, something like a 4-star Jaime weapon would be significantly better than owning like a 4-star Daenerys or something in your same lineup. Just the amount this increased weakness multiplier will be giving you is just insanely valuable. He's definitely one of the best weapons in the game, but you will, unfortunately, due to his cost, want to be getting more and more stars on it to really feel the value of that. He has, by far and away, as these numbers, I think, quite clearly show one of the best weapons in the game.